Whoa, Luke, that was quite the crazy Oscars, am I right?
Yeah, I can't believe the cast of Sinners once again got called the N word.
Yeah,
And
I can't
yeah,
believe the guy who did it got a standing O.
yeah, that was the crazy part. And then yeah, Timothy Chalamet got just humiliated by a bunch of opera singers and ballet dancers as well in some form or another.
Yeah, well, I mean, the thing is, like, when they decide that they're going to interrupt you, they can hold a note for a very long time. They just plowed through all of the allotted time until they got played off.
Yeah. Well, do you think that people will figure out that we're recording this review before the Oscars aired?
Oh yeah, yeah, because what we're saying is nowhere near crazy enough.
Yeah, I mean, I hope so, but I don't. I don't think anyone else is going to get called the N word. Maybe you know what? Maybe Timothy Chalamet will get called the N word.
Hello, and welcome to Select and Reflect, the movie review podcast where we look at films that have come out in the near and distant past. We give them a couple of watches and evaluate them beyond first impressions. I'm your host, Michael, and I'm joined, as always, by my co-host, Luke. And this week we are continuing our Oscar extravaganza, where we look at the films that were nominated for Best Picture at the Oscars that have now been and gone, but still we plow on with our mission. And this week we're going to be looking at, look, I just have to ask, I hope you've got over the cold that you had when you told me we were going to be watching this movie. But I must say, I was very excited to hear that we were going to be watching Hamlet. I love Hamlet, one of Kenneth Branagh's classics. So, Luke, why don't you tell us a thing or two about Hamlet?
Michael, it's not Hamlet.
What? I thought we were going to be reviewing the Scottish play.
No, wait, isn't that Macbeth?
I know, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, it's Hamnet.
Oh, you know what? It's kind of funny because it's literally it's like some Mario Wario shit. Because it's like literally sounds like Ham not. Like this is Hamlet. No, this is Hamnet.
Yeah, but Chloe Zhao puts that very necessary thing at the start of the movie, saying, "Hey, you know what? Hamlet."
Yeah, I thought that was so weird. That was so funny to me.
It was basically the same back in the day. It's like, yeah, obviously, like you don't why, like we're not morons. Okay, we get it. There's one letter between them. It's fine.
I know. Thank God it wasn't Hamret, can I just say? Because then everyone would have been like, that would just been handing the racists a bone.
Yeah, I think the reason why that note was put in at the start is because this movie is based on a book by Maggie O'Farrell. This idea, yeah, it's fiction. That Shakespeare had a son die called Hamnet, and therefore he wrote Hamlet. I think that's why that note was put in. But yeah, who cares at the end of the day? We're talking about Hamnet, the film. So it is a 2025 historical drama film directed by Chloe Zhao. And of course, we have reviewed two other of Chloe Zhao's movies, haven't we?
The Eternals and Nomadland.
Yeah, and she won for Best Director, didn't she? For
Eternals.
For Eternals, yeah, exactly. I thought it was Nomadland, but I guess I was wrong. So yeah, she co-wrote the screenplay with Maggie O'Farrell, and of course this is based on the 2020 novel by O'Farrell.
Too much creative control. That's when whatever happened to the writer-director.
Well, Zhao is the writer-director.
I know, but I'm just saying, like, obviously they couldn't tell the true story because O'Farrell was breathing down her neck the whole time.
Okay, yeah, I'm sure it was a very good collaboration between the two. But yeah, no. It stars. Well, it was produced, by the way, by Steven Spielberg. Yeah, which is kind of weird, but whatever. So the movie stars Jessie Buckley, Paul Mescal, Emily Watson, not Emma Watson, and Joe Alwyn. It was released on the 9th of January 2026 in the UK, where of course this movie is set, but somehow it was released 2 months earlier, well, a month and a half earlier, on the 26th of November 2025 in the United States. The US got it a lot earlier than us, even though, of course, I did not go to the cinema to watch this, and I would not ever do that. No, to be fair, I did see Little Women in the cinema, the one from 2019,
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, that's just because you were hoping Emma Watson's attractiveness can outweigh her bad acting.
So, Michael, can you guess what the budget was for Hamnet?
I have an idea in my head. I've got a thing, which is obviously this movie set in the past, but the interesting thing, as a well-known Stratford head that I am, I have been to Stratford upon Avon, where Shakespeare's from, and I have been to Shakespeare's preserved historic houses which still exist, and I recognized that all of this was shot in his actual houses in Stratford. Ipso facto, I think that and obviously the Globe Theatre still exists. I feel like maybe they were able to save a bit of money. But I'm going to throw out sort of a random number, but I hope it won't be horrifically wrong. 20 million.
No, it was higher.
Okay, 40 million.
30 to 35.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah. And what about the box office?
Now, I heard people talking about this. I feel like, in a way, this movie... I don't know if this movie did terribly. Because I feel like, in a way, it's sort of like Shakespeare. People are interested in Shakespeare. Shakespeare in Love did quite well. I feel like a lot of kind of normies might have been to see this film. I'm not saying like it made like 500 million, but I don't know. Maybe it made 60 million.
It actually made quite a bit more.
Okay, you know what? So that's an example of me setting up the logic and then underappreciating. So I don't know. Did it make 100 million?
It has so far made 96 million.
Okay, cool.
So it may make 100. I don't know if it's still in cinemas, of course. But yeah, Hamnet, Michael, did you like this movie?
I found this film to be a little bit, in my estimation, devoid of substance. Like I kind of was like going into this film saying, yeah, okay, like it will just be kind of a decent whatever, like kind of historical drama. I've seen Shakespeare in Love. I don't remember anything from it. I know everyone's mad because it won Best Picture over Saving Private Ryan. But yeah, like it's not like I went to this movie. Like my memory is Shakespeare in Love was fine. And I was kind of going, yeah, okay, yeah, this will probably be fine. And it was fine. Like, I didn't dislike it. But I was kind of thinking, at the end of it, I was kind of thinking, I don't really know what the point of a lot of that was. And obviously, I could, identify that there's themes in the sense that pretty much any movie about anything has themes to it. But I don't think there was anything, like, really... I couldn't really tell you what the main appeal was supposed to be. So, yeah, I didn't dislike it. But it's not even, in my estimation, close to being like a Best Picture kind of situation, which is a shame because I've kind of, so far it's probably my least favourite of all the films we've reviewed. What did you think?
What, even worse than F1?
I think
Just
F1
say yes or no.
had raw entertainment value, so yeah, I think F1 was better.
So I gave F1 a 4 out of 10, and you're saying you were like a 4.5.
Okay, wait, never mind. This is better than F1. I'd forgotten F1 to be honest. I just remembered the fast moving cars. No, okay, so This is better than F1.
Yeah, it's hilarious to compare this movie to F1. It could not be more different. I guess
yes.
This a lot of the movie is set in the UK. But yeah, okay. I want to use the word frustrating, but that's giving it, I feel like, too much credit because it's like, it could have almost been good. But no, I don't feel like it could have almost been good because it's certainly not entertaining. It's very far from entertaining, and I understand, you said the movie's not about anything, or you said something similar to that, didn't you?
Yeah, like I said, it didn't have a point.
Well, I think it does have a point. It's a pretty clear, point, about how arts can help you overcome grief, I suppose. But I'm just like, yeah, sure. And it's not that like interesting, to be honest, because a lot of the movie is like, it's very weird because it's called Hamnet, and obviously Paul Mescal is playing William Shakespeare, but he's never referred to, by his name. Like he's never called William Shakespeare. It's only at the end of the movie where someone refers to him as William Shakespeare.
Yeah.
So and yeah, in the novel, of course, written by Maggie O'Farrell, he is never named, or the character, who Paul Mescal plays, in the actual book, is not called William Shakespeare once, which is quite weird because, obviously it is William Shakespeare, and I guess there's a point to that because it's, the movie is meant to focus on the character that Jessie Buckley plays, which is of course Agnes, but so it's like we're not even going to mention who this guy is, but it's like, well, obviously it's like, just mention him. It's William Shakespeare, and throughout the movie you have these little like Easter eggs where Shakespeare is saying, or these lines, these famous lines from his plays, Romeo and Juliet, and then Hamlet, when he's on the banks of the
says to be or not to be,
yeah, and then the kids are saying lines from Macbeth, and it's just like, Chloe Zhao has directed an MCU movie before, so maybe she took some of those talents, from directing Eternals, and it was like, what, Easter eggs, that's a good idea. It works a lot in the MCU. Let's put
it's
those
part of the expanded Shakespeare universe.
Yeah, let's put that into this Oscar bait Shakespeare movie with Shakespeare. You get little references to stuff Shakespeare has done or will do in his life, and so it's weird how the movie like sets up like Shakespeare. It's because it's like it's teasing the audience. It's like, oh, who is this guy? Oh, look, oh, is that a Romeo and Juliet reference? Could this be Shakespeare? And it's like, yeah, it obviously is. So why not just like?
It's also weird because have you heard the idea, like the conspiracy theory that like Shakespeare didn't actually write his own plays? Like there's like people say all sorts of things. So like if anything, like if you're watching this movie, I feel like you could be like, I wasn't really thinking this because I already knew it was Shakespeare. But like if you went into this movie blind, you might be actually very confused, thinking, oh, so is this like the unnamed guy who wrote Shakespeare's plays or something like that?
Because it's like, it's all about Agnes, but also we're going to tease, they treat, again, Shakespeare like a character in the MCU, or like it's his origin story, and they do that, and also, try to make the movie about Agnes, and it's just a very weird, like, contrast, because it's like, okay, either commit to, like, totally ignoring this guy, either commit to that, or just have it. Oh yeah, this is William Shakespeare. This is one of the most famous people ever to live. Let's just call him William Shakespeare. Let's just talk. Have him discuss his plays with his wife. And how successful he's been, because everybody knows how successful he was, and everybody knows all his plays. So yeah, like the movie takes this weird middle path, which I'm just like frustrated with, and also it's not entertaining really at all. Apart from the ending, I will say the ending kind of saved this movie, because I think the ending is actually really good because it's a good culmination of a lot of things.
And also it's good because it just has Shakespeare, and Shakespeare was a talented guy.
Well, exactly, yeah. This is the part of the movie which doesn't focus on Agnes and the woman, and actually focuses on the talented one in the relationship.
Talented on the man. Yeah, exactly. There we go. That's it. Yes.
Yeah.
Someone had to say it.
The actual interest. Well, yeah, it's true. It's like, I mean, I was going to get into this while reviewing the movie, but William Shakespeare is the actual interesting one in this movie, the interesting character, not Agnes. But the movie like wants to make a point about how the women, it criticizes like the great man theory, and it's like the women behind the men, they're the ones that put in the hard work, and it's like, yeah, but like not every man is William Shakespeare, like if you want to, critique this great man theory. It's hard to do that when the man in the relationship is William Shakespeare, who is, one of the most famous people in the history of the world. You agree with my whole criticism of it's kind of pointless critiquing the great man theory when the man in question is Shakespeare. Do you agree with my point?
No, I don't. No, yeah. I think basically, yeah, you're right. And also, the other thing is, it doesn't seem like she had much of it, because she was literally separate from her for most. Like the thing is, they were literally not actually that in touch with each other, so you can't even really say that she's presented as having some big positive impact on his stuff.
It's hard to pull this off, because obviously, like the husband would have to be somewhat famous. They would have to be a great man, somewhat.
I feel like it could work if you just picked a man who genuinely was, and I feel like that there will be men out there who had their women kind of, what's the word, like gunning for them, running.
Well, yeah.
What do like the rappers say? Like their women are like kind of putting in work behind the scenes.
I've got the word.
Kind of stuff.
Carrying them. How in like football, like someone or any sport, someone carries someone else.
Yeah. I feel like there will be a real life example of that. I can't be able to work out what it is, but just find that example and then make a movie about that. Yeah,
because I don't think Agnes carried Shakespeare.
No, she didn't at all. It would be crazy to even consider that possibility for a second.
Yes, like of course she helped him get to London. Yes, but again, then what he did in London, well, plenty of playwrights throughout the centuries will have gone to London to write plays or whatever. There's a reason why people remember the name William Shakespeare, because he was extremely talented.
Yeah.
And as you say, his wife, doesn't really know what the fuck he's doing most of the time. So yeah, like
exactly.
Yeah. And you could say, of course, she inspired him with his plays, but I mean, his experiences involving her inspired him, not really her directly. We're attacking the central core of the movie. The central point of the movie, which is a problem in itself, but also the movie is not entertaining either for not focusing on focusing again on a rather uninteresting character.
Yep.
And then, of course, you got the whole MCU Easter egg critique as well. So yeah, those are our problems. But let's. Well, do you have nitpicks?
I have one nitpick.
Okay, go for it.
Do you know what Agnes's real name was?
No.
Do you know what her surname was?
Wait, was her real name Anne Hathaway?
Yes. So my criticism is one. I thought that it seemed to me cowardly that they intentionally. Well, the weird thing is they never. Do they ever even say her full name? They never even say like Agnes Hathaway or anything like that. So I don't know why. Like to me, it seems like they didn't. Like I'm like they didn't want to call her Anne Hathaway, maybe because people know Anne Hathaway as the modern actor. I don't know. But what I did write down, and this is my real nitpick. Anne Hathaway isn't hot enough. Obviously, the real Anne Hathaway is considered a very attractive woman, and I think they should have got Anne Hathaway to play Anne Hathaway. And every single time people met her, they should have referred to her by her full name and said, "Hey, Anne Hathaway," just to confuse people.
Yeah, why not? I mean, again, like they never mention her surnames; they just call her Anne. But whatever.
Yeah.
Like this movie loves tricking people, even though it's not that clever with its tricks. But whatever.
No. Yeah. But yeah, that's it. Do you have any nitpicks or picks things?
No. So let's get onto the plot.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's jump in, as they say. The powerful story of love and loss that inspired the creation of Shakespeare's timeless masterpiece. The film dramatizes the family life of Shakespeare and his wife, Anne Hathaway, okay, there we go, as they cope with the death of their 11-year-old son, Hamnet. You always tell me like not to read the notes in advance, and I'm so good at that I didn't even realize that the very second line was in the notes literally mentioned her full name.
So that is how I knew her real name was Anne Hathaway, because I remember sending that to you, or putting it in my notes and then sending it. I was like, oh yeah, I do know her name. Yeah.
Yes. So yeah, I mean that's the plot. I think we've already said quite a lot about our central issue of it.
Yeah. I just want to. Do you know what I put in my notes, by the way? Well, you don't obviously, but yeah, I put not about Shakespeare, instead about his boring weird wife. Which again, I don't want to be dismissive of Anne Hathaway. She's a beautiful woman. No, obviously, look, this movie the book was written by a woman, Maggie O'Farrell. And the movie was made by a woman, Chloe Zhao. And yeah, women, I think, they are more predisposed, shall I say, to these boring, slow, depressing, romantic movies. And it's fine, that those movies exist, but don't act like they're great. And of course, this is nominated for Best Picture, so it feels like, because it's a decent movie. Like, it's not one of the worst movies I've ever seen, of course. But when it's nominated for Best Picture, you expect something that is better than this. And yeah, I feel like this is very much a movie which takes like the worst traits of like female intellectuals, in terms of like the entertainment that they enjoy, and it's like put into one movie, which I don't think even works. And then like fucking Chloe Zhao, I bet she was desperate to do a Shakespeare movie, because she's a British weeb. If one of those exists, I don't know if it does, but
they're called tearboos.
Are they actually?
Yeah, that is a thing.
Okay, right. Because I read on her Wikipedia she was always fascinated with the West, of course, growing up in Beijing, and she went to school in Brighton when she was 15. She comes over from China to the UK, and of course she's very rich, and it was a very good girls' school that she went to in Brighton as well. Very wealthy, and yeah, I imagine it's kind of like an Emerald Fennell situation where like Emerald, and she is better than Emerald Fennell. Let me be clear. But yeah, how Emerald Fennell like loves these like English classics like Wuthering Heights or whatever, and then completely bastardizes them. And Chloe Zhao again, like probably loves Shakespeare, but then it's like, oh yeah, what about the woman behind Shakespeare? Oh, isn't that interesting? Isn't that feministy? And great. Is it a good story? No, not really. And again, you can like this movie if you do like it, fair enough. But yeah, it is just not that good a premise, and that is the big issue with it. And it should never have been nominated for Best Picture. Even though I think Jessie Buckley, her performance is really good. So I guess that gives it some, prestige.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's overall, like, again, there is a I guess a market for these movies, and it's not me. Obviously, I'm not interested in these movies. But just because I'm not interested in these movies, it doesn't mean that, and some other people are, doesn't mean that like this is good, and this should be like hailed as a great movie. No, there are fundamental flaws that exist that I think are there regardless of my personal tastes.
To me, the fact this film it does feel like a kind of reimagining thing. It has that sort of I guess they say postmodern feeling to it, or deconstructionist, I think is another term people use. Although at the same time, it almost like doesn't even focus enough on Shakespeare to actually do anything meaningful as far as deconstruction is concerned. It's kind of, you could say it's a deconstructionist by omission. The fact that it doesn't really focus on Shakespeare. But yeah, I agree with you that it's a pretty flawed endeavor from the outset.
Yeah, and I don't want to sound like a misogynist, but I'm trying to explain like how this movie came to be. They want to write a movie for them, and that's fine. But again, that doesn't mean that the movie is interested. Interesting. Yeah, again, like it's there are like stereotypical male movies, that I would critique and say, oh yeah, this is too like masculine, so it's too chauvinistic. But the difference is those movies don't often get nominated for Oscars.
Yeah,
yeah. But this one got nominated for Best Picture. So there you go. Anyway, let's get into the differences in structure between the book and the film.
O'Farrell uses a fluid back and forth timeline. The story begins on the day Hamnet starts looking for help for his sick twin, then jumps back in time to show how Agnes and the Latin tutor met, weaving these two timelines together until they collide at Hamnet's death. The film is linear. To make the story more cinematic and less jerky, Zhao chose a chronological approach. The movie follows the couple from their first meeting through marriage, the birth of their children, and finally the tragedy, allowing the tension to build steadily toward the play's debut. What's interesting about that is it almost suggests in the book, it kind of says they collide at Hamlet's death. I don't know if it's suggesting from that point onwards it's linear, but obviously in this film quite a bit happens after his death, so I don't know if that's another difference. Yeah, I mean, I don't mind a bit of non-linear storytelling. I think that can be interesting. And maybe even in a film like this, if you're already trying to be a little bit kind of rethinking stuff and a little bit sort of artistic, maybe, yeah, you could be justified in playing around with the chronology. But
yeah,
I wouldn't say it's necessarily... It's not make or break. It's not like the film would suddenly be better if it was in the wrong order. Yeah,
I think it can be interesting if a movie is non-linear. But yeah, sometimes it is a bit of a gimmick, and I'm not really interested in gimmicks. So yeah, it can be pointless as well. So yeah, I don't think this movie would change drastically if it was non-linear. So yeah, I'm fine with how it is, to be honest.
Oh no, yeah, I would agree. I think it's fine. Would you like to hear about the script of this actual movie, though, Luke?
Yeah, so let's get into the script, I guess.
Yes. Agnes is seen in the forest near a mysterious cave where she summons a hawk with her falconry gloves and gathers herbs. William Shakespeare works as a tutor to help pay family debt. He leaves his students after seeing Agnes and they share a moment.
Yeah, it's a very weird start, isn't it? And I love how Wikipedia just ruins the twist by naming Paul Mescal as Shakespeare. Right away, it's like, yeah, and this is William Shakespeare, the Latin tutor. And of course, yeah, they kiss right away because this is she's a weird woman, so yeah, this is the kind of shit that's going to happen because they're both not conventional, Michael, and that's what makes it interesting.
They're whores.
Yeah. Talk about the opening to the book.
Yes. The book opens with 11-year-old Hamnet in a panic, running through an empty house, trying to find an adult as his sister Judith is terrifyingly ill. This sequence takes up a large portion of the early chapters and establishes the pestilence as a looming character. The film skips this frantic opening in favour of the courtship between Will and Agnes. The sense of neglect / absence of adults that the book emphasises is less prominent in the film. This is interesting. Because I have been quietly, mildly disagreeing with you, but not in a way that's serious. But here's the thing. I watched this film, and I also had a sense of, this should have been different. And you have said that you think it would be really interesting if the film focused a lot more on Shakespeare. Now, I agree with you.
No.
Okay.
Well, no. What I was saying is that there is a more interesting movie that could have been told because, like, who are you going to focus on? Agnes, or are you going to focus on Shakespeare? Like, and you focus, of course, this movie focuses on Agnes. And my point is that, of course, she is not the most interesting character in that pairing. Yeah,
fair,
and of course,
enough.
if it was about Shakespeare, it would just be a completely different movie.
Yeah. So, because here's what I was thinking. I watched this film and I was thinking back on it, and I was like, hold on a minute. this film, because I was thinking like there was some stuff with the relationship between Hamnet and Judith that I actually thought was really quite interesting, just in terms of the way it showed their relationship. And I was thinking, this film is a little bit retarded because it should have been, in my view, significantly more about the relationship between Hamnet and Judith. And one of the reasons I bring that up, and this is something that happens later on, but I'll mention it now, or rather would be relevant later on, is that after Hamnet kind of like does the thing where he swaps with her, whatever, we don't like see the rest of what happens to Judith. So I don't know, maybe I'll like mention that as a thing later on. But it just seemed a bit weird that was like such a central thing, and then it's like by the end of it, Judith might as well not exist. The fact the book focused a lot more on Hamnet trying to save his sister, on like his relationship with his sister. And by the way, I actually saw that the book was published in Canada under the name Hamnet and Judith. That's a fun fact. That makes me think that the book had more of a focus to it. Where the book was like, I'm going to explore this relationship between these siblings.
Michael, it has to all be about Agnes. It has to all be about this woman. Yeah. So no, we can't focus on Hamnet and Judith. No, it has to be about the woman.
Because to me, like this whole like courting thing, it just felt like it felt very by the numbers. Like, that was my issue with the whole courting thing. It was just they're just whatever. Yeah,
we'll get to that. But yeah, again, I think what I do like about the book's opening is that the pestilence as a looming character. It's kind of foreshadowing, and that's some good foreshadowing. So maybe the movie would work if this was the opening scene. Because of course a lot of movies do this. They have an opening scene which is set not in the same chronological time as the rest of the movie. It's quite common tactic. So you could have just done that with this one, and again, the neglect, absence of adults, which is emphasized in the book. Well, that's key, isn't it? Because you're watching the movie, and there's not a lot of scenes, to be honest, where William Shakespeare is not present, and the kids are around. A lot of the scenes with the kids, Shakespeare is there. He's there with them. So that would emphasize the themes better. But no, the movie is about Agnes. It's about the woman behind the man. So the opening has to all be about Agnes.
William's mother, Mary, another woman, informs him of rumours that Agnes is the daughter of a forest witch who taught her herbal lore, which Agnes later uses to heal a cut on William's forehead. The book leans heavily into Agnes's supernatural intuition. The film translates this more through Jessie Buckley's performance and cinematography, rather than explicit internal monologue. Okay, now I did just say that maybe the book is better. I will say this, I could not give less of a crap. Like, this feels like another like woman feminist thing. I know women like to be like, ooh, we're witches. Oh, this is the witch that didn't burn, blah, blah, blah. But yeah, like this whole thing of like her being a witch, it just felt very weird because I'm like, aside from anything else, aren't witches shown to be mostly, like, I only know of witches appearing in Macbeth, and they're not shown to be good characters. So I don't really know how someone could possibly argue. Like, what is with the witch thing?
She's this weird witch girl. She's not like other girls. Just like Chloe Zhao wasn't like other Chinese girls. She loved the West and wanted to move to England and wanted to read Shakespeare. And just like fucking Maggie O'Farrell, I don't know like what her deal is, but whatever. Like the point, women can, I think, identify with his character. Like, oh yeah, she's a bit different. She's a bit quirky. She's not like other girls. So I think that's the point. And maybe the supernatural thing is like, hey, William Shakespeare, he has his powers. He's a very good playwright. But this woman is equally as powerful. But she's shunned. She's shunned by society because she's a witch, even though of course witchcraft didn't exist, but whatever, I think that's the point. That's the point in the supernatural thing, to show she is more than just like a housewife. She is also very powerful in her own way. And again, it leans into, like you said, the feministy thing. Again, I'm just watching this and like, whatever, sure, fine.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it kind of it's a bit like, it reminds me of the whole like Black Panther. So it's a bit weird, but like this, I was thinking like Black Panther, where it's kind of like it's this empowerment story, but it relies on giving someone this like magical ability. Like, if anything, this kind of works in favor of the misogynists. It's like, it's basically saying, yeah, sure, a woman could be equal to a man if she had magic powers,
which do not exist.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, it's like it sets up this as a fantasy. Anyway, William visits Agnes in the forest. She asks him for a story, and he recounts the legend of Orpheus and Eurydice. I'm really annoyed because he says it in the thing. It's just, I hate these Greek words. Eurydice, delighting her. Would you be happy with how I pronounced that?
Yeah, no, that was a great pronunciation. Well,
and I nailed it first time.
Orpheus and Eurydice. This guy, he's great with stories, And
I wonder who he is.
I wonder who he is. Yeah, so this is where I put in my notes. Is there a point in the twist that this guy is Shakespeare, because obviously, the movie is called fucking Hamnet, and this guy is a writer. Like, if I already didn't know what this movie was about, I would be confused while watching this, because I would be saying to myself, wait, like, this is obviously Shakespeare, isn't it? So why the secrecy? So yeah, there's just the secrecy is pointless, but yeah, because it's all about Agnes. So like, this guy, we can't even say his name, even though of course he's William Shakespeare. But yeah, and do you like the tale that William tells Agnes?
Yeah, for some reason I feel like I kind of zoned out during it. Like, I feel like I kind of remember just vaguely like having like a sense of, they're using words right now, but I think by the time I got to the end of the play, I was like, oh wait, I wasn't really paying attention to what he said. So does that answer your question?
Well, I think this is where I also put in my notes, this is definitely a movie for women, because I think Paul Mescal reciting that story, that is, it's romantic, even though it's not that interesting a story.
It's like Dr. Octopus says in Spider-Man, bitches love poetry.
They do. Does he say that exact line?
I think so, yeah. That's why he becomes a villain, because he gets cancelled.
Wow, crazy. But yeah, they do. Well, at least educated women who went to fucking liberal arts schools like Chloe Zhao.
Yes.
You may be wondering how I know so much about Chloe Zhao. I did skim her Wikipedia page, because after watching this movie, I was like, I bet there's some like psychology behind why she did this. Oh yes, she is a British weeb who was fascinated with the West and went to these liberal arts colleges. Yep, all tracks, all checks out. Yep. She would definitely make a movie like this. Yeah.
No, yeah, absolutely. I can. Yeah. I mean, you don't surprise me. Agnes Palm reads William, seeing a good future for him and 2 children at her deathbed. The pair fuck, impregnating Agnes. The 2 marry, and Agnes gives birth to Susanna in the woods. Yep, good, well done. I'm glad that they had fun banging. I hope they enjoyed it.
Yeah, did you like the pair fuck? Because originally it's like the pair consummate their relationship, and I just was I was like, that's too many words for Michael.
No, I actually appreciate that. That's very good.
Yeah, and again, the foreshadowing is just so annoying. It's like, Agnes reading his palm. It's like, oh, you know what? You're going to be a success. It's like, yes, because he's William Shakespeare. Like, again, it's almost seemed like a superhero origin story. She
helped him believe in himself.
Yeah, well, exactly. That's a standard superhero origin story like plot point. You will do great things. The older character. Well, I guess it's often an older character saying to the superhero in question, like, yeah, you're going to do great stuff. Believe in yourself.
I know, and it's all because she said it. Otherwise, he wouldn't. Otherwise, it wouldn't have happened. You ready for some hashtag analysis?
Yes.
The first act, it rushes through the courtship of Agnes and Will. It's often cited as being on fast forward. Critics argue that because the film spends so much time on the idea of their love rather than the reality of it, Agnes feels less like a fully realised character and more like a vessel for woodsy mysticism and motherhood. This makes the middle section feel punishingly solemn without the grounding character work found in O'Farrell's book. That sounds, I would be inclined to agree. I feel like I did mostly just think, man, this seems like a pretty miserable relationship. And I definitely didn't get a sense of them having some kind of deep, loving connection, even slightly.
Yeah, because there's only a couple of scenes with them, like, having a good time together before their marriage, and you gotta build that up a bit, and I think that is a flaw, and again, the fact Agnes maybe feels like a vessel for woodsy mysticism and motherhood, that's. Yeah, just she does not feel like that 3-dimensional character, which is a bit of a failing on this movie's part, considering that this movie is meant to be all about her, and she doesn't feel as realized as she should, to be honest with you, because there's so much emphasis on like her her fucking herbs and all, and like the fact that she's a witch or whatever, and it's like, okay, that's cool and all, but what about her as an actual person? And and the scenes with when she's like acting like a person with Shakespeare, she seems a bit quirky, a bit weird, and she doesn't feel like as normal. Well, I say normal. She doesn't feel like a proper character almost. So
I would agree. Which is again, there's kind of that irony of sometimes when you like have these. ideologically, I don't want to sound too much like an anti-woke crusader, but
No,
movies that are kind of ideologically driven, you do get the effect that they actually end up making the characters feel less human.
Yeah, no, I do think this movie is ideologically driven, and the ideology is not that bad. The ideology could be a lot worse, but it is, and that again affects. Well, I think that's why this movie isn't that entertaining, to be honest with you. But yeah.
No, yeah, I agree. William retaliates when his father, John, beats him for rejecting manual labour. Seeing William's frustration with writing, Agnes suggests to her brother, Bartholomew, to send him to London for a theatrical career, leaving her and Susanna in Stratford. Okay, yeah, so she is, she's got his back. She's the reason why he had his success as a theatre man. That is useful to establish.
Paul Mescal. It's interesting because when this movie got released, people were saying, this could be a Best Picture nominee, and Jessie Buckley could be in the running for winning Best Actress at the Oscars, and that is going to happen. We're recording before the Oscars, but she is going to win Best Actress at the Oscars. And people were saying, obviously, because it is kind of an Oscar baity movie, what about Paul Mescal for Best Actor? Could he be nominated for Best Actor, or maybe win it? Or that was a bit more unlikely, but I saw a lot of people were happy that he did not get nominated because they were like, yeah, he's doing.
He's a man.
Well, yeah, he is a man, but he's doing too much, in this in this movie, and particularly in this scene, it's so over the top. Like, oh, he's this tortured, like artist, he can't write. He's so frustrated. He feels trapped. Yeah, we get it, but like again, do you agree? Like he's just doing way too much in that scene, where Agnes comes over to console him, when they're in the bedroom, and he's like there's so much arm movement, going on, and he's like. He's so dramatic, and it's just completely unnecessary, just so unsubtle. And he definitely thought, this is my Oscar moment. This is my time to shine.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's too much. And I am glad that he did not get nominated, because he was going for it, and you shouldn't overextend yourself.
Oh no, yeah, absolutely. I would agree. Yeah, I think he does kind of lean into it, and I haven't seen any evidence he's a really great actor. I've seen people rave about him. I think he's fine, but he's not great. That's my take. Sorry, I'm just gonna say it. I've seen him in a few movies. I've never ran away feeling like or left the movie thinking he was particularly fantastic. Sorry, it's just someone had to say it.
Yeah, no, good point.
Yeah, I don't regret it. 11 years later, a now successful William returns intermittently while the children grow up. The twins believe they look similar and frequently try to trick family members by wearing each other's clothes. Agnes foretells that Hamnet, who wishes to join his father's theatre company, will flourish. Agnes's hawk dies and is buried. Yeah, so she got confused because they look too similar, which is embarrassing for her.
Yeah, this is where I put in my notes. I'm so glad that we get to skip Shakespeare's life and how he became a success instead of this bullshit with all of the family playing together and being happy. It's so like cliche. It's weird. It's like. It is, when they're all like laughing and like hugging and all, and there's quite a few scenes like this, and it's almost like it's like they're posing for a family photo,
stock photo,
like a family photo shoot, and Chloe Zhao, I have to say, this is poorly directed, it doesn't feel organic, doesn't feel genuine, maybe if you have one scene like this, but there's quite a few, and again we get some more pointless foreshadowing.
Yes,
it's all this movie has, man. A lot of foreshadowing.
No, yeah, absolutely. And I mean, again, it's just like this magic thing. I don't really care about it. And I also feel like maybe controversial. The film should spend less time telling us what's going to happen and more time kind of getting us invested in what's happening.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Yes. Now, returning to London, during an outbreak of bubonic plague, William watches a puppet show depicting the plague carrying people off to death. In Stratford, Judith contracts the plague. Hamnet evokes the tail of the hawk, too, and lies beside her, proclaiming he wants to take her place, to trick death. Judith recovers, but Hamnet falls ill and dies. He envisions himself on a stage, calling for his mother, and Agnes's hawk appears. Yeah, so I thought this moment was pretty good. I like the aspect of that they kind of pre-established this idea of people getting confused between them, and I thought it was very, emotionally convicting that you had this kind of like childhood game that they'd been playing at the start with like kind of tricking their dad into thinking like one was the other, being reincorporated in this very like dark but kind of earnest way of like, oh, maybe if we trick death, then death will kind of get us confused, blah blah blah. I thought that was good. like I was like, yeah, like that's actually a really powerful bit of imagery, I guess.
Yeah.
So I like that.
It's one of the better moments in the movie.
Yes.
I just wish, again, if you're going to do something like this, Judith and Hamnet are not. There's only again a few scenes with them together. There's a few scenes of them bonding. You know, it's like 10 minutes after they're introduced, Hamnet dies. You know, if you want to set that up to be like truly emotionally convicting, as you said,
yes,
then it needs to be set up better. To be honest, again, it's not bad, but it could have been better. It could have hit even harder than it does, to be honest. And yeah, it's obviously the hawk thing. That's symbolic, isn't it? That's that's his mother's spirit. So there you go.
Yes.
Like yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Well, do you agree with my critique there?
Yeah, I think so, because obviously that's the thing. I mean, kind of, you do need a wider context where you feel it more intensely, because that's the issue. Like with this film, there are like these emotional sparks almost seems like too generous of a term, but like moments where I was thinking, man, it's just kind of a shame that taking the film as a whole, you're just like, oh, it's not all coming together. It's like a very bland pretzel with a few little bits of crunchy salt.
Yeah, that's a great analogy right there. Yeah, no, but I do get that. Yeah, it's you can see. Well, there are some decent moments, particularly the end. The ending actually lands quite well, and the ending is an example. Again, I'm not just a hater. The ending is an example of this emotional like payoff, which is set up well. Again, this moment could have been set up better, but yeah, it's not awful. So yeah.
No, yeah, absolutely. William rushes home and is distraught to find Hamnet dead. His absence strains his marriage to Agnes as they cope with Hamlet's death. William buys the largest house in Stratford and departs for London. Agnes holds his hand and says she sees nothing. Wow, she's lost the magic ability. So it turned out it was the boy all along who was the reason. It's basically behind every man is a magical woman. Behind every magical woman is their son. Yeah. It's funny buying the largest house after your son dies. It's like, you can't say we need the space.
Yeah, it's like the worst ad ever. It's like baby shoes never worn.
Yes.
For sale, and it's like, oh yeah, well, we got this big house. We've never moved in. We don't really need the space anymore.
Yes.
Yeah, but yeah, this is a completely unexpected development, isn't it? That their marriage is strained after one of their kids die. Wow, that's crazy. Who saw that coming? I'm just.
It's I
just
get
very...
you. You're being because
it's
quite predictable. I see. I understand.
Yeah. Very uninteresting, to be honest with you. Yeah, and obviously Agnes blames William for not being there, and I guess of course it does set up the play Hamlet. So yeah, it needs to be there. So at least it does provide a point in the overall story. But yeah.
No, yeah, absolutely. Now, time for some more hashtag analysis. The film suggests that while Shakespeare escapes into the global city of London to cope with his life, Agnes is forced to remain in the domestic reality of Stratford. The movie critiques the great man narrative by showing that his success was built on the silent endurance and the physical labour of the woman he left behind. Yeah. I mean, I do think that kind of like idea of like he gets to be all cosmopolitan and she has to stay domestic kind of is, I guess, makes sense. Although, so the only reason why they can't move to London is just because they think it's going to be unhealthy. So that was kind of like, that didn't really work out for them, did it?
Yeah. But yeah, so again, we have this man who, goes off to be a star, and his success is built on the foundations, and the silent endurance, and women love that shit, the silent endurance, well, and the physical labor of women. They love that, I bet Chloe Zhao and Maggie O'Farrell thought they were doing a service to all the women throughout history who have been burdened with, having to endure silently, by creating this movie. But again, like, it really is, I guess you could argue, like, what this happens in this movie is Agnes is responsible for getting Shakespeare to London. But yeah, it's like, if there is a great man of history, it is William Shakespeare. Again, how many iconic plays did he write? Like, we could just list them off. I mean, and that's the thing. Like, this guy should have been completely irrelevant in the modern day. Do you know how crazy it is that he's been relevant for centuries? And I would absolutely say yes. The great man theory is. Or should be critiqued, and this movie would be critiquing the great man theory successfully if Agnes was was directly responsible for helping William Shakespeare write some of his plays.
Yeah.
But as we said before, she doesn't really know what's going on in his life. So yeah, it's at some point you just gotta give it up for the talent of old Shakespeare.
Yes.
At some point it's like, yeah, well done to Agnes and all of that, but like this guy, like he is the star of the show.
Yeah.
And he deserves to be the star of the show because he's William fucking Shakespeare.
Yeah, I think you said one time he's not called Shakespeare.
Yeah. No. Again, do you want to say anything on that?
No, yeah, I do 100% agree that obviously, yeah, this thing of, and also like this thing of kind of, I don't know. Have you seen that comic about like me when I see the last ripe peach? Oh,
yes.
Yeah, okay,
yes.
that thing.
Yes.
Yeah, and I've seen like a lot of people talking about like, for some reason the discourse around that got renewed recently. I don't know, someone just retweeted out like, who remembers this?
Yes.
And I saw someone who was like, it was actually a woman, so it's right. And she was saying like, one of the things I had to learn was to stop making kind of pointless sacrifices for nobody. And like, obviously it doesn't really apply here in some sense, but I do feel like there is this idea a lot of women like to have that they make sacrifices. And they're the ones who keep everything going with their sacrifice, but the sacrifice is like actually pretty pointless. In this case, I don't know, like obviously it is a reality that women have done unpaid domestic labor, and men have been able. But yeah, I just feel like in the case of Shakespeare, he really, I think, could have got by without Agnes. In fact, I feel like basically because he was making enough bank, he could have just hired a maid. When they literally go to see his house in London, it's just like a bachelor pad. So that kind of doesn't work because she wasn't even taking care of the house.
And yeah, you are right. There is this idea, which of course I referenced before by mocking the silent endurance thing, or the wife in the relationship not wanting to eat the last peach because it's like, this will be great for the kids. It's like, yeah, okay. Do you just want to be the victim? I mean, victim is too harsh a word. Or do you want to be like a martyr? Maybe that's
yes,
a better word.
I think martyr is a good term. Yeah. Anyway. William rehearses Hamlet in London, but is frustrated with his cast delivery. Sounds like you when I'm reading these notes. In despair, he leans over the edge of a jetty on the River Thames and recites his to be or not to be monologue from the play. Yeah, so this is the tortured artist. But again, like, I mean, obviously I know what you've kind of been focusing on, which is the whole, they're really just leaning into it with making this story... the opposite. So they should have made this more about Shakespeare because he's very interesting. I imagine that you were filled with a sense of what could have been when you're kind of seeing this moment where it is really focusing on his kind of process as an artist, which is something which is otherwise not really touched on very much.
But it feels so gimmicky, because the movie doesn't focus on him that much. So when he does say that famous line, it does feel gimmicky, to be honest with you. And again, it feels like a kind of an Easter egg. That Chloe Zhao was tossing in there. Again, you should either just ignore him completely, or you should, have him more involved in the movie.
Yes.
And what I'd suggest is to go even further and just have a movie about Shakespeare because he's very much more interesting. But of course, that is not what this movie is about at all. But yeah, you are going to read a bit about this moment.
Yes, there are moments where the film seems to wink at the audience with IP-dependent references. Scenes show Will jotting down early lines of Romeo and Juliet after a kiss, or the children play acting as the witches from Macbeth, have been described as cringy or shallow. One particularly divisive scene features Mescal reciting the to be or not to be soliloquy on the Thames while weeping, which some found theatrically hammy. I think theatrically hammy is a very fair description, frankly.
Yeah.
Sorry,
even
Liz.
Even if the movie was completely like about Shakespeare, it would, this kind of line in this context would feel as you read out theatrically hammy. Yeah, it's like there's the line. There we go. I recognize that. Yeah, I think the honest trailers for the Oscars, that they often do for 2026. When Paul Mescal said that moment that they. That they like played a fake cheer, like the audience cheering.
Oh, wow, that's funny.
Like, it's like, oh, he said it. Yeah, it's like when Andrew Garfield appears in Spider-Man: No Way Home.
Yes.
And takes off his mask. It's like that. So yeah, it is. It cheapens Shakespeare's work. I think doing this.
I don't. Yeah, I think that is I think that is accurate. Because ultimately, again, I would say either make it about Shakespeare or don't. Yeah. Oh, and speaking of, the focus on Shakespeare. In the book, Shakespeare is a muted figure, and is famously never named in the novel. The story belongs entirely to Agnes and her interior world. In the film, while Agnes remains the heart of the movie, the presence of Paul Mescal naturally brings more focus to Will. The film explicitly identifies him by name and explores his individual process of grief and artistic creation more deeply than the book, which keeps his London life largely a mystery to Agnes. Yeah, I mean, obviously the thing with books is that it's much easier to make an internal story just about someone's feelings, because you can just sit there writing, she felt really, really sad, but obviously with a film, you can never have stuff happen.
Yeah, so on the one hand, I think involving Shakespeare a bit more, it broadens the movie's commercial appeal, and again, kind of undercuts the point of the movie. And I think it doesn't really work because, again, everybody knows like who Shakespeare is. So yeah, there's a variety of reasons why including Shakespeare more in the movie, I think it doesn't translate so well. But on the other hand, I think involving Shakespeare more does make it more interesting. So yes. I like the scenes, with him, with Mescal, because and actually maybe discussing his work, because again I am interested in William Shakespeare, because how can you not, considering how famous he is? Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. No, yeah. Agnes's stepmother Joan shows her a playbill for a production of Hamlet in London and upbraids her for marrying William, but Agnes rebukes her. In the book, Agnes's stepmother is a cruel, primary antagonist whose presence explains Agnes's connection to the forest and her otherness. In the film, her role is significantly reduced, making some of Agnes's later outbursts towards her feel slightly less contextually grounded. Okay, good. Oh my goodness. I had no idea who this woman was or why she was mad at her even at all. I also, by the way, had no idea what the phrase or the word upbraids means. But there you go.
Yeah,
I've learned a new word today.
I guess it means insult,
Yes.
But yeah, it is cliche, isn't it? The cruel stepmother. So I'm fine with this being omitted from the movie. But yeah, it is a bit weird at the end where she has a go at this woman, and attacks her. It's like, okay, calm down. But yeah, I'm fine. Like that this was omitted from the movie.
No, yeah, absolutely. I felt like it really didn't need to be there either. Agnes and Bartholomew travel to London to see William. Finding him absent from home, they resolve to attend the first performance of Hamlet at the Globe Theatre. Initially, she's offended, thinking her son's name is being profaned. However, upon seeing William as the ghost of Hamlet's father, she realizes the play is a tribute to Hamlet and is moved to tears by the scene between Hamlet and his father. Yeah, I was thinking to myself, imagine how annoying it would be. Like, you're like a peasant, you hardly make any money, you just have enough money to go to see the play, and this fucking bint is just fucking shouting to herself in the front row, and you're like, dude, shut the like they should have had
that's my son.
So yeah, like this, like why do they always let the crazies in? What are the bouncers doing today? They should have the little kind of thing that says like to check your, like, basically turn off your mobile phone, all that. But yeah, whatever.
I don't really understand the dialogue, but I get it, and that's a credit to Shakespeare. I don't, and the acting, I guess. Like, I don't really understand how it's a tribute to Hamnet, because I get it broadly, but like the dialogue specifically, I'm like, yeah, sure, I guess this is doing the job. Yeah, it's a vibe. That's how you have to treat it,
Yes.
like a vibe.
Oh no, yeah, I think that's like a really beautiful way of putting it. And yeah, I mean, see, yeah, like a lot of people don't even know, for example, that wherefore means why. That's the age of Shakespeare literacy we're living in nowadays.
Yeah, thy means my as well. I think
fucking inflammable means flammable. What a country.
Yeah, so you're going to talk about the ending now, and
good.
In the book, well, because we are on the ending, but yeah, so we're going to talk about the ending in the book and the film.
Okay, lovely. So, the ending. The book ends on a haunting note. As Agnes watches the play Hamlet, she realizes that by putting herself in the role of the ghost and giving the son his own name, her husband has found a way to keep the boy alive. Ooh, very morbid. You could say necromancesque.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, it sounds to me, from what I can tell, like the book ends on a more depressing moment, or maybe not, because it's yeah. Just talk about the ending in the film,
yes,
and maybe how it differs to the book somewhat.
In the film, the ending is more sentimental and visual. It adds a recurring motif involving the Orpheus and Eurydice myth, especially the "don't look back" aspect. The final scene at the Globe is more communal. The audience members actually reach out towards the stage, emphasizing the transformational healing power of art for the living rather than just a private reconciliation between husband and wife. In a meta touch, The film cast real-life brothers, Jacoby and Noah Jupe, to play Hamnet and the actor playing Hamlet, making the visual connection between the lost boy and the stage character even more jarring for the audience. That is interesting, actually. Yes, I mean, it was very emotional. It had that like song from Arrival, which I think is used. That the one's like it's like the very like sad stringy thing, and I was like, I've heard this before, which kind of took me out of the movie, but yeah, whatever.
Yeah, that was also critiqued, by the way, the score.
Oh, lovely.
Yeah. I'll get it up in a sec to see the exact critique, but yeah, I do like that. The fact that you had the brothers playing, one of them played Hamlet, the actor, and then of course one of them, the other brother, played Hamnet, the kid who dies. I cannot imagine like the school fees that those two kids have commanded over the years.
Yes.
But yeah, I've commanded. Basically,
they went to private school.
Yes, well, one of them still goes to private school, I imagine. I don't think he's done with private school yet, but yeah, like hundreds of thousands of pounds in school fees for Jacoby and Noah Jupe. But yeah, I like the ending here very much, and yeah, it's true. Like when art is art is powerful, and when it is visual, it is I think that's when it can really touch people. I did not realize, by the way, again, I don't know if this is true or like the book made it up, but the evil uncle in Hamlet represents Shakespeare being a bad father. And what do you mean? Okay, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I could see it. Yeah, I suppose.
Well, is that what the movie is saying?
I mean, yeah, maybe, possibly. I don't know.
Well, yeah,
because like, it could be the case.
Well, I know what Hamlet is about. You have this
Yes.
evil uncle who kills Hamlet's father and then weds his mother.
Shags the mum.
Logically, it means that the evil stepfather or the evil uncle in Hamlet must be a representation of himself, William Shakespeare, abandoning Hamlet. That must be the case. So yeah, I mean, I'm just thinking like logically. Yeah, I understand it. Yeah, no, so I think that's great. I didn't realize that until watching this. Again, it could the movie or the book could have just made that like up, but maybe not. So yeah, that's cool if it is true. But yeah, let's get to some hashtag analysis.
Yeah, hashtag analysis. The film's main thesis is that great art is often the ghost of personal tragedy. Shakespeare is performing a ritual to resurrect his son, in quotes. The film argues art is the only place where the living and the dead can truly meet again. Yeah, I will say, like, this is the one thing, like, if someone was to ask me, like, what was the theme of this movie? What was the main kind of takeaway as a message? My impression was that it was very much about this idea of how can art serve as a means of emotional catharsis and a means of a memorandum.
Yes. So yeah, that's a good way to put it. Yes, arts can be this personal catharsis. Arts can help with grief as well, and also women. There is a great woman behind every great man, and that's the other point of the movie. And sometimes that woman is even greater than the great man, even if that man is William Shakespeare somehow. But yeah, now this is like a central thesis to the movie. The way the movie culminates really hammers home this theme, and it is a good theme as well. It's a very satisfying ending, I'd say.
No, yeah, absolutely, yeah. I mean, it's the moment where, in a way, well, it is satisfying, but it also is kind of frustrating in that it's that moment where you realize, okay, this is what the film is about. But then when you think about it, you're like, oh, well, in that case, it would have been much better if they'd focused a bit more on the relationship and stuff like that. So it is a moment where in realizing what it's about, you're like, oh, well, maybe they could have done better to make this feel more earned. Backstage, William, having noticed Agnes, breaks down in tears while listening to the play and returns to see Agnes from the wings. The play progresses through scenes of sword fighting, fulfilling Hamlet's dream of such a role. During Hamlet's death scene, Agnes reaches forward for the actor's hand as she had held William's when they first met, and the rest of the audience reaches toward him in turn. She envisions Hamnet on the stage, seen earlier as his dying vision. He moves from sadness to a smile before disappearing into the backstage through a hole resembling the forest cave. For the first time since Hamlet's death, Agnes laughs and smiles. Yes, good. I hope other people who lost their sons tragically gained emotional catharsis from this movie.
Yeah, they're never really gone, They're never really gone.
No, one's really gone.
Yeah, it's a very emotional ending, And again, like I said, a very good culmination of the plot and the relationship between Agnes and Shakespeare, and of course the death of their son. Yeah, it's just very good, and it really does save the movie, because I don't think the rest of the movie is that good. But I was into it at the end. I was like, oh yeah, I see what's happening. I see how this can be very cathartic. Of course, it must be incredibly emotional for Agnes to see Hamlet do what he's doing up on stage, and then go into the hole, which of course, like you read out, resembles the hole in the forest. And it's really nice. It like ties the movie up very well into a
neat little package then.
Well, yeah, the overall package isn't that good.
No.
But to improve upon the metaphor, it's like you got a package, but you end up tying it like together very well, even though the package itself isn't that great. You get what I'm saying?
No, yeah, I get you. Yeah, it's it's like a pretty bow on a cardboard box.
There is this healing power to art, which is something that I do agree. And you said, of course, imagine all the parents who have lost like sons or whatever watching this, and it could be like a very cathartic, emotional moment. But like imagine like your Hamnet, like so many kids throughout the centuries have died, and no one gives a shit about them. But everyone will always care about your death, because it created one of the greatest ever plays, apparently, according to this movie / book. But yeah.
No, yeah, that is true. That's like quite the flex. Quite the kind of legacy.
Yeah, it's almost better that you did die as a kid, because otherwise, nobody, we wouldn't have gotten Hamlet if it wasn't for your death, apparently. So yeah. Let's conclude, Michael. You go first.
Yeah. So basically, obviously the main strength of this film is that when you kind of if you look back at it holistically and you say, okay, I know what the point is. You can say, okay, it did some stuff that was pretty good, and like the point is quite interesting. But when you actually think back on the experience of watching the film, you're like, oh wait, I remember all the time when I was just like, this isn't really going anywhere, this isn't really building up to anything. And indeed, looking back on that stuff in hindsight, you're like, oh yeah, that stuff was pretty pointless and didn't ultimately come together to contribute to the effect, the lasting effect of the movie. And I think that's a big shame. In fact, I think it's a sufficiently large shame that I am going to rate this film rather a low 6. I think the best I could do is a middling 6, but I just feel like at the end of the day, the stuff in this film that was good is mostly stuff that should have been good in any film. I think there's enough bad stuff that I'm kind of just like, this is technically a good film, but a quite low ranking for a good film.
Yeah, so I put in my score 6.5 out of 10 for Hamnets, and so that's a bit higher than you potentially, but again, it's around a middling 6, maybe a low 6 if you're being harsh. So not great. And again, I think you talked about we have both talked about the ideology behind this and critiqued it, and talks about how it's not that interesting. But again, like there is a place for movies like this, but it just should not be nominated for Best Picture, and it should not be considered like a good movie. And again, this is a standard like Oscar baity movie. You sit down, you're expecting it to be somewhat decent, and it's got like 86% on Rotten Tomatoes or something, and it just didn't meet my expectations. Apart from the ending, which was good. Again, a good emotional climax there, a good climax to the plot, a good emotional climax. Really really solid. Just the rest of the movie unfortunately does not live up to that, which is a shame. But it does save the movie, because if it wasn't for that ending, I was thinking of giving it like a 4.5 or a 5. I was going to be quite harsh. So 6.5 out of 10. It's fine. Although I think we have been rather harsh. But I think we have been rather harsh just because, again, of the fact it's been nominated for Best Picture. So Michael, what are we reviewing next time?
Next time, we are reviewing 2 movies, and those 2 movies are Sentimental Value and The Secret Agent. Are those both foreign films?
Yes. One is from One is from Norway, The Secret Agent, and Sentimental Value is, of course, from Brazil. And we will review those 2 movies next time. And we will continue our Oscar extravaganza, even though the Oscars will have been and gone. So join us for that next time. Who have you been, Michael?
I've been Michael.
I've been Luke. Thanks for listening, and goodbye.
Goodbye.